relationship between the United States and the Philippines, to state the obvious, has very deep roots. We've had some rocky times, but the fact is it's a critical relationship from our perspective. I hope you feel the same way.
The relationship, the 100-plus-year-old relationship between the Philippines and the U.S. continues to evolve as we face the challenges of this new century and the events that we have been watching over the past months. Really, the role of the United States in maintaining the peace in our region is something that is much appreciated by all the countries in the regions and the Philippines especially.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. The big story tonight.
The Philippines and the United States held their first bilateral talks in years as President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. met with U.S. President Joe Biden at the sidelines of the UN General Assembly.
At the center of their meeting are issues on the South China Sea, as well as the United States defense commitment to the Philippines. Marlene Alcaide with the big story.
Despite their busy schedule, U.S. President Joe Biden met with President Bongbong Marcos at the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York.
We're very happy for the opportunity to meet with you despite the schedules that we both have to deal with.
You came a little further than I did.
Philippine foreign.
In a press conference ahead of their meeting, the two leaders acknowledged the decades-long alliance between their countries.
The relationship between the United States and the Philippines, to state the obvious, has very deep roots. We've had some rocky times, but the fact is it's a critical relationship from our perspective.
We have always considered the United States our partner, our ally, and our friend.
Among the topics discussed by Marcos Jr. and Biden is the ongoing tensions at the South China Sea.
I expect we'll discuss the South China Sea and disputes in critical global throughway. I've spent a lot of time with not only the President of China but others about the international waters and how they have to be respected.
Marcos, in return, said the Philippines recognizes the U.S. crucial role in maintaining peace in the ASEAN region.
The role of the United States in maintaining the peace in our region is something that is much appreciated by all the countries, the Philippines especially.
U.S. President Biden also reaffirmed the U.S. ironclad commitment to the Mutual Defense Treaty. This treaty compels the U.S. and the Philippines to come for each other's defense if one is under attack. Marcos also took the opportunity to thank the U.S. for donating COVID-19 vaccines to the Philippines.
We had the provision of up to 35, almost 36 million doses of vaccines very early on, ahead of some of the other countries, and for that we are very grateful.
Other topics covered by the bilateral talks include energy security, climate action, and food security. Currently, the president and his economic team are pursuing more foreign investments from the U.S. According to officials, there are already exploratory talks with various companies. A modular power plant firm, for one, has expressed interest to invest in the Philippines. Such investments are expected to generate more jobs for Filipinos. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
To talk to us more about Marcos's bilateral meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden, as well as the economic briefing, we have with us on the show Philippine Star reporter Alexis Romero, and he's reporting live from New York. Welcome to the big story.
Thank you for having me.
Alexis, first of all, can you describe to us the atmosphere in the room? We know that when it comes to high-level meetings like this, everything matters, from how brief it was, the posturing, the gestures, the how friendly the two presidents were to each other. Can you describe to us the meeting?
Well, it was very cordial, no? Based on the video materials provided by both sides. It was very cordial, and you can see that both nations really have deep relationship, very strong relationship. But what's interesting is this is the first time that in 6 years that a U.S. or a Philippine leader visited the U.S. We have to remember the fact that President Rodrigo Duterte, Marcos' predecessors, did not visit the U.S. because of his anti-US sentiments, but it's really the first time in 6 years that a Philippine leader visits the United States, the traditional ally of the Philippines. So you can see there's nothing really unusual, nothing really extraordinary about the scenario, about the environment based on the materials handed to us. But you can see the reaffirming of the friendship, and if you want to think of it this way, it can also be somehow a reset, some form of a restating of alliance that was faced or faced certain uncertainties during the time of Duterte, who was known for his anti-US sentiments. But in general, it was very friendly. It's something that you will expect between two allies, between two friends who have been supporting each other for several years, even decades. So it's a friendly meeting that aims to reaffirm existing partnerships, and at the same time, it's a way of saying, hey, we're still allies despite what happened in the past 6 years, the rocky road that the relationship of these two countries had to endure or had to experience during the past administration.
Okay. Now, Alexis, was there anything remarkable as they reset these conversations, friendlier conversations? Nonetheless, was there anything notable or even remarkable in the things they talked about? For example, South China Sea, did that come up? And speaking of President Duterte, one of the thorns at the side of the U.S.-Philippine relations, of course, during his time was human rights. So South China Sea, human rights, did those come up, and did anything else notable come up?
Okay, regarding the notable, what's striking is President Marcos' description of the president: partner, friend, ally. So using those three, what we call synonymous terms, so it's really telling. It's like telling them, okay, we're really friends. Of course, it's diplomatic language, no? But given the context in the past 6 years, it's something that you can view as, well, not really unusual given the context, but something that strengthens or reaffirms what they have, the Philippines and the US, in the past few years or even decades, no, of relationship. Now, with regard to South China Sea, there was a mention of South China Sea from the materials provided by the White House. The materials provided by the White House explicitly stated that the two leaders talked about the issue, and they affirmed the importance of freedom of navigation. Interestingly, those statements were hardly tackled in Philippine materials provided by Malacanang. But another interesting thing is the South China Sea was not extensively discussed in the press materials. Of course, we all know that maybe these two leaders, they probably talked about the dispute. But with regard to giving public information, there was a mere mention of South China Sea and freedom of navigation, and you have President Marcos saying that we value your role as a peacemaker in the region, but the particulars, nothing, not much. There was not even a mention of China or any recent incident in the South China Sea. So we all know that they discussed it, but the sharing of information is another thing. They mentioned it in their press materials, but not much details. And with regard to human rights, same thing. President Biden said in his press conference before the talk or the bilateral talk, he wanted to discuss human rights. And when the White House came up with its press statement about it, they also discussed basically restating that they talked about human rights. But that's just about it. Even the Philippine side, well, I can remember this because I was the one who asked Press Secretary Angeles yesterday, what was discussed about human rights? Well, what I got was this response. It's one of the main concepts or pillars under the Indo-Pacific economic framework, but nothing more than that. Nothing really specific about human rights issues or abuses, not even a mention of atrocities during the previous administration's drug war. Nothing really. What we have are just restating that, okay, this is discussed. But beyond that, at least what was shared to the press, not much details.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Alexis Romero, for those information as well as remaining questions. Alexis Romero is a reporter at the Philippine Star. Now, after the break, we will take a deeper dive into the renewed defense commitments between the U.S. and the Philippines with our very own One News defense editor, Manny Mogato. That, when the big story returns, keep it here on One News.
Okay, let's have a look at the first word news. We've got Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida saying his government will act against excessive movements in the currency market, stressing the importance of stable exchange rates. Kishida speaking hours after Japan intervened for the first time since 1998 to support the yen. The finance ministry's move was prompted by further declines after the BOJ decided to stick with ultra-loose monetary policy. All right, let's have a look at the Nasdaq. It's said to be stepping up scrutiny of small-cap initial public offerings after a series of outsized gains by new listings that quickly evaporated. Our sources saying the exchange is looking more closely at prospective small-cap issuers, with some companies putting IPO plans on hold as a result. Most of the recent spate of wild market debuts has featured issuers based in China and indeed Hong Kong. World Health Organization saying the COVID-19 pandemic is not as yet over with, just days after President Biden declared its end in the US. The WHO Director General is warning about large vaccination gaps in poorer countries and the risks of more dangerous variants emerging. Now, on Sunday, Biden declared the pandemic over in America as cases and deaths decline. Well, Bank President David Malpass insists he is not a climate change denier, publicly acknowledging that fossil fuels are indeed contributing to global warming. Calls for his resignation have been mounting after he dodged questions on the link between fossil fuels and climate change, saying he was not a scientist. Malpass has now told CNN it's clear that burning oil, gas and coal is generating greenhouse gas emissions. And that's a look at the first word headlines.
Great pleasure in welcoming Her Excellency Elizabeth Truss, Prime Minister and First Lord of the Treasury of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I invite her to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we say farewell to our late Queen, she was the rock on which modern Britain was built, and she symbolised the post-war values on which this organisation was founded under His Majesty King Charles III. We want this era to be one of hope and progress.
I think one of the things that we need to keep in mind is the monarchy will survive depending on how it deals with those contingencies in many ways, right? I mean, Charles III will be judged on his ability to handle crises.
À Son Excellence, Monsieur Ali Bongo Ondimba, Président de la République gabonaise. Et je l'invite à prendre la parole devant l'Assemblée.
Our Commonwealth family has lost its leader, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Through the union that she loved so deeply, the Queen offered respect, friendship, and wise counsel to many independent nations around the world, small or large. She promoted peace, liberty, and shared values, and fostered a spirit of cooperation. As the new head of the Commonwealth, His Majesty King Charles III can be assured of my
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. Now, let's circle back to our big story tonight. Let's get some more insights on what this meeting between President Marcos and U.S. President Joe Biden means for foreign relations and defense security here in the Philippines. Joining us live here in the studio, One News Defense Editor Manny Mogato. Manny, gandang gabi.
Good evening.
So, kanina pinag-usapan natin, of course, a lot of this was about foreign relations. And a lot of the foreign relations was also about the United States. Mm-hmm. The President Marcos, of course, says he will continue an independent foreign policy, pero hindi naman kaila. He needed to rebalance also that independent.
We are friends to everybody.
Oo, di ba? But anong nakita mo dito sa visit niya sa UN in general at saka itong pagtatagpo nila ni President Joe Biden?
Basically, it's very symbolic, no? Because 6 years under Duterte, we don't have any engagement with the U.S. Duterte never set foot on U.S. soil for 6 years. And we have President Marcos, in less than 3 months, he was in New York and met with Joe Biden. And they had a phone call in May. So it's very symbolic. So are we asking, are we back in each other's arms?
Well, it does look very familiar. Parang ganyan lang naman yung mga tono ng mga past presidents, except for Duterte.
Pero actually, the U.S. never left us. No? Kasi even if Duterte tried to
shoo them away,
terminate BFA, stop the military from having exercises in the South China Sea, the U.S. was still there. And in fact, during Trump's administration, they shifted their policy to supporting the Philippine position on the arbitral ruling. Malaki yun, no? And then they gave us so many equipment, no? I think they have given us about $600 million, no? Especially mga drones and other equipment. So hindi tayo iniwan ng US, no? And we have to thank Teddy Boy Locsin and Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana for straightening up. Kasi si Duterte, his rhetorics are pro-China, pro-Russia, pero
even anti-American.
Pero the relationship between the US and the Philippines remain the same.
Doon po sa meeting na yun, do you think it's just President Marcos trying to get back to the middle? Or do you think by calling the U.S. the partner, ally, and friend, we're moving towards the United States? And what does this mean?
It's just a reaffirmation of the relationship that we have with the U.S. Kasi talaga namang ironclad ang relationship ng Pilipinas at ng U.S.
Hindi ba magtatampo si China?
Well, dapat hindi sila magtampo kung alam nila yung foreign policy natin. No? Kasi talaga namang pro-US tayo no?
Hindi naman talaga
naiba lang tayo nung kay Duterte dahil
pero ano yung direction ngayon nung alyansang yon? For example, South China Sea, kanina sinabi nga ni Alexis Romero ng Philippine Star. Nabanggit, wala naman tayong detalye.
Well, kasi mas kailangan tayo ng Amerika kaysa kailangan natin ng Amerika. Because of Taiwan, no? In the past few weeks, no, after Nancy Pelosi visited Taipei, no, nakita niyo na there was tension in the area. So nagkakagirian, no? So in that case, if the US needed support in the Taiwan Straits, they needed the Philippines because nandito yung base nila no? I think one of the discussion na hindi lang sinabi is that US is trying to request for more access in bases in the Philippines.
Nako, mahababang usapan din yan mismo. Diba? Parang we will have to unbundle that. Maybe sa chiefs, imbitahin natin para mahaba yung usapan. Maraming salamat for your insights. One News Defense Editor Manny Mogato.
Thank you.
Join us as we deliver stories that inspire discovery, adventure, and public service. Catch Women in Action with yours truly, premiering this October 1, 7:30 p.m. here on One News with replays every Sunday on 1PH. Let's watch this. Sa mga weekend warrior tulad ko, 2 oras lamang mula sa Metro Manila, mararating mo na itong mala probinsyang eksena.
Tuloy-tuloy lang. Tayo ka na dyan, kaibigan. Ako'y sabayan, halina. Pag-asa ang ating sandigan. Sigurado tayo dyan. Pupusta ko, pare kaya mo pa.
Susuyurin, lalakbayin, top life.
10 years from now. Okay, game na. Okay, no, hindi, wala lang. nung kino-cover ko si Heidi Lane, iyak ako na iyak. Fulfillment yun of vision na binigay ni Lord. Itik 1, itik 2, itik 3. Yung asawa po ninyo?
Ayun ay single man na ako.
Oh, masaya na. Bago sila mag-invite ng mga bisita, gusto nila na harmonious yung relationship ng environment tsaka ng agriculture sa tourism. So yung ganong perspective, mapadagat man, mapabukid man, makakatulong yan sa tunay na pag-unlad ng La Union.
Iniwan ka na.
Sinapuera ko na.
Oy, ganyan talaga. Pag dalawa talaga ang babae mo, iiwanan ka talaga nun.
Hindi tayo papayag na hindi mapuntahan itong isa sa mga tinatagong yaman ng La Union. Kable.
As a security sir, maluwang yung niro-roaming ko. Tapos mahirap yung pagpunta ko sa trabaho ko, medyo malayo sa bahay. Service po sa school po.
Sasakay kami nitong Black Hawk helicopter. Nais nilang ipakilala ang ibang mukha ng hulo, hindi lang sa mga dayo, kundi pati sa mga kabataan nito. We are at the center of the Bible story, right here in the old city of Jerusalem. And behind me is the area where Jesus spent the last days of his life. Hindi pwedeng pa lusog. Parang kulang pa sa training yung mga kami. Nasa edge kami. Pagka nahulog kami, doon kami babagsak sa bangin.
Tuloy-tuloy lang ang biyahe. Tuloy-tuloy lang, tuloy-tuloy lang. Mararating mo rin.
Right after the break, we'll sit down with Idol Philippines Season 2 grand winner, Khimo Gumatay. Keep it here on One News.
Another rainy weekend might be in the offing for several parts of the country this weekend. This as Tropical Storm Karding slightly intensified while moving westward over the Philippine Sea. As of 5 p.m., Karding is located at around 970 kilometers east of northern Luzon. The storm is packing maximum winds of 75 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 90 kph. According to Pagasa, Karding is forecast to move generally westward while gradually accelerating towards the east coast of northern Luzon or Aurora. Karding is expected to make landfall come Sunday morning or afternoon. Pagasa said, Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal number 1 may be hoisted over parts of northern and central Luzon tonight. The State Weather Bureau added that Signal number 3 may be declared in certain areas as Karding accelerates towards Luzon. The public, especially those that are living in highly susceptible areas, are advised to take necessary precautions for the tropical storm. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, we are One News.
We start with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. He says that his government will act against excessive movements in currency markets, stressing the importance of stable exchange rates. Kishida spoke hours after Japan intervened for the first time since 1998 to support the yen. The finance ministry's move was prompted by further declines after the BOJ decided to stick with ultra-loose monetary policy. Goldman Sachs, meanwhile, says it expects the Bank of England to raise its key rate by 75 basis points in November and December. That's after 3 policymakers called for an increase of that size in a split decision vote. The BOE delivered a 50 basis point hike Thursday, taking the benchmark rate to 2.25%. Goldman economists now predict the rate will eventually hit 4.5%, up from a previous prediction of 4%. The World Health Organization says the COVID-19 pandemic is not over yet, just days after President Biden declared its end in the U.S. The WHO Director General is warning about large vaccination gaps in poorer nations and the risk of more dangerous variants emerging. Now, on Sunday, Biden Biden declared the pandemic over in the U.S. as cases and deaths have declined. World Bank President David Malpass insists he is not a climate change denier, publicly acknowledging that fossil fuels are contributing to global warming. Calls for his resignation had been mounting after he dodged questions on the link between fossil fuels and climate change, saying he was not a scientist. Malpass has now told CNN it's clear that burning oil, gas, and coal is generating greenhouse gas emissions. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts and more than one.
You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. A new Idol Philippines grand winner has been crowned. After months of competing, it was Khimo Gumatay who came out on top. Now he's joining us live via Zoom. Good evening, welcome to The Big Story, and congratulations!
Mabuhay, congratulations!
Good evening and thank you so much po, and thank you for having me here.
Kamusta naman yung season and how's life after being crowned winner? Idol.
Yun po, in the past few days po, I'm still beyond thankful po, and also Idol journey was indeed a very humbling experience.
But Khimo, to that point, if you mentioned the journey, but if you look back on that journey, balik tanawan mo, what did you learn from Idol Philippines?
Siguro po, isa sa mga memorable po na experience or memorable po na lessons na binigay sa akin ng Idol Philippines is to seek discomfort po talaga. Dahil kung napanood niyo po, Idol Philippines Season 2 it is not just about singing, dahil marami pong aspects yung hinahanap nila. To be the idol, the idol na hinahanap nila, and yung idol na nakikita nyo on stage and also off stage.
I want to find out, how was it working with, icons in the music industry like Chito Miranda, Regina Alcacid, and we also have Moira de la Torre. And yung mix nila together, ano yung mga napulot mo mula sa kanila?
Yun po, it was a very humbling experience po, and also working with those 4 reputable judges of Idol Philippines na may kanya-kanyang character and also kanya-kanyang genres when it comes to singing, and also may impact po talaga sa music industry in the Philippines. Sobrang nakakataba po ng puso bilang artist po and bilang aspiring artist po na ginagapang po yung sarili and to work po in the industry.
Khimo, sabi mo kanina, seek discomfort. Sige nga, what's next for you at ano ang bagong hamon para sa'yo?
Yun po, siguro ang bagong hamon po sa akin, and also I'll take this as a challenge po, is the title itself, the Idol Philippines Season 2 champion and grand winner po. Alam ko pong malaking responsibilidad po siya, and also malaking opportunity din po sa akin bilang aspiring artist, also a hopeful, dahil ang tawag po sa amin dati sa Idol Philippines is hopeful. Yun po, hope po talaga, and also marami pong bala po and marami pong opportunity ang ABS-CBN po sa akin, and under Star Music po, abangan niyo po yung mga lalabas ko pong kanta.
We're very, very excited for you, Khimo. Siyempre, pwede mo na rin simulan dito. Pwede ba kayong makarinig ng konting sample mula sa'yo?
Sure po. Siguro kantahin ko na lang po yung piece na kinanta ko last the final showdown. So it goes like this. It's my time to shine. When I see your God, I feel no pain. I'll reach for the skies. I will learn to fly, and I'll be strong, and I'll be brave, and I'll make waves. It's my time.
There you go. Congratulations.
It's his time, and I understand, tama ba? Birthday. It is his time.
September 24, happy birthday.
Advance happy
Thank
birthday
you po.
sa'yo, Khimo.
Enjoy the victory run. At kamustahin mo ako sa host nyo. Kapangalan mo pala yun, ano?
Ano nga yung pangalan ulit?
Kapapangalan mo nga.
Ispilingin mo nga, ispilingin mo nga.
Wag na. Congratulations and thank you so much for coming here on the show.
Thank you.
Idol Philippines Season 2 Grand Winner, Khimo Gumatay.
Enjoy your time, Khimo.
Thank you po. Thank you po.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more analysis. I'm Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News. Watch Woman in Action. All sides, all the time.
October 1.